So this is from Singularity, the big
Okay. The big epic.
20-minute or 18,
23 or
23
something. Yeah,
minutes.
I
Oh my
think
goodness.
yeah.
No turning back, and I'm on the right track. No turning back.
That's classical Elektra right there. Like just yeah.
Right track.
So Eric, I thought it would be really fun if we just sat down and talked about what it was like to bring Elektra Women's Choir into Empath, because it was such an amazing experience outside of our experience. And I think some people might be interested in, the choir is so present on the recording, such a fantastic thing for us. But it started out with me getting a voicemail to call this guy whom I didn't know at all.
Okay.
And the backstory to us getting the call was that Michael Foster with Blackfish Sound, who's part of Devin's audio team in Vancouver, he had been asked by Devin, do you know any choirs? And Michael had recorded Elektra acoustically a couple of times.
I see.
So he knew who we were. And he said, yeah, I know this choir. So I got a voicemail and I thought, really? Okay, I don't know a thing about this. And if I've learned anything in my life, it's like, if the gig's not right for you, don't say yes.
For sure.
Right? So I was totally ready to say, here are a bunch of phone numbers of other people who would be better for it. But I called him back and I said, do you know what we sound like? Because, we are a classical choir. We sing contemporary classical music. We sing folk songs. We don't belt. We don't do vocal fry.
Sure.
There's just things
It's
I wouldn't.
not a gospel choir.
No. And I couldn't have asked the singers to go into a studio and be outside of their vocal comfort zone or their musical comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, do you know what we sound like? And he said, yeah, I've been all over your YouTube channel. It's really beautiful. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I said, well, what makes you think you want that sound on your album? Because again, it just seemed like two different styles, completely different.
Yeah.
And he said, well, the whole album is about empathy. And I really think that the human voice, the women's voices are going to add a way for the listeners to connect to the emotions of the album. And I went, wow, okay, so 2 for 2. And then I said, how do you even know about choral singing? Like, what even gave you the imagination for wanting that sound?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, when I was in my high school choir, and I'm already going, oh, this sounds good. When I was in my high school choir, we sang this piece where the tenors got to hold a D flat and the other parts moved away and the music was just so beautiful and I was really hooked.
Yeah.
And then I knew we were on completely safe ground, because that is exactly what makes us all tick, right? As classical choir people. I'm pretty sure that was probably Palestrina or something like that. I mean, I have no idea, but sometimes I say that singing Renaissance polyphony is like psychotherapy, only cheaper. You can kind of be in this amazing moment, and it's so powerful to sing. So I just felt sure that he was going to understand who we were and that he wasn't going to ask us to be something that we weren't. Well, then we agreed he was going to send me something so I could just get an idea of what this was. And so he sent me Why.
Yeah.
And
that's the first
now that I've heard the whole Empath, it's like, what do you send somebody who wants to know what this experience is going to be like?
For sure.
Any one track is going to be misleading or whatever. So he sent me Why, complete with the castanets and the big growl and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But this amazing vocal gymnastics and this really cool song and this sort of fake voices behind it, the chorus behind it kind of thing. And I just phoned him back and I said, yeah, this sounds really interesting. I'm up for it. If you're sure you want what we sound like, let's do it. And then I started going on his YouTube channel and looking around a lot more. And I stumbled on you singing background vocals on another one of his projects. And so I emailed Devin right away and I said, I don't know if you remember this guy, but Eric Severinson used to sing in my youth choir when he was a teenager. Yeah. He's gone on to be a professional musician. He knows choral music. I know he would be right for this gig. And I got an answer like 10 minutes later that said, Eric's been involved in several of my projects. He's fantastic. I'm going to call him right now. And then he did.
I remember that phone call, actually, when he called me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of my personality maybe where I think I've done every project really terribly. So I think the last time we worked together, I thought, oh, there's the last time I'll work with Devin, because whatever, we've made certain mistakes and whatever. And then to get the call, I was really happy.
Great.
And so the first song he sent me as well was Why. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the first demo he had finished.
Maybe, yeah.
And he just described the entire project to me as Disney. He wanted vintage Disney.
That's
He'd
what I
been
heard
watching
too. Yeah.
Fantasia,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
just wanted it to sound like that. And I thought, wow, like,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And then the other demos started trickling in, and I
Okay.
realized there is still a sort of maybe more typical Devin
Right.
element of this with the bombastic, the metal sounds
Yeah.
and the rock sounds and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that. But then I got really excited about it. I listened to the demos quite a lot. And then Devin came over to my studio and we played these demos, and he would just sort of sing for me what he imagined the choir would do. And often he would just be singing maybe a top line.
Okay,
And
yeah.
he'd say, I want it big here and small here
Yeah.
and a ooh here and
Yeah.
these words. And
Yeah.
I was really glad, because maybe in the past when we had worked together, it was a little more hands off on my part.
Okay.
I had transcribed parts that he'd sang before, and then we re-recorded those same parts.
And you didn't question what he'd given you
Yeah, not at all.
previously,
Not at
right?
all.
Yeah.
I just
So
used-
here was your experience stepping in and saying, "I think I know how to tweak this."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. We went back and forth quite a few times. He let go of the reins and let me do whatever I wanted to do, and then he would come by and just edit.
Awesome.
And it was great. I wrote
Yeah.
a ton. I wrote a lot that didn't even get in there.
Yeah.
Because maybe his vision is so huge, and the only way to make it huge is to be very specific.
Yeah.
To not have anything superfluous,
Yeah.
which is strange to say, knowing what the music sounds like. It sounds like there's superfluous material everywhere.
It's just huge. Yeah.
But in order for it to sound maybe so big, it has to be sort of this laser sharp
Yeah.
vision through the whole thing. Those are those solo parts that we recorded afterwards.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I was wondering.
Turning back, and I'm on the right track. No turning back, and I'm on the right track.
So that was the one to me where I thought we sort of captured maybe the sensitivity
Yeah.
of the
yeah,
ensemble the best.
Yeah.
Where there's nothing complicated
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Just a straightforward text that sounds perfect with those
And
chords.
and perfect with his voice, the way he uses his voice in that song.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Really, amazing.
Yeah.
This is from Why.
Oh
This is
yeah,
the first
hummin'
one.
hummin'. We have to play the hummin' hummin'
Hummin'
section.
My proudest moment. Oh, I turned it
Yeah.
off
Was
now.
that your idea?
The humminas were in his part where they were like a low, loud guitar part
Oh,
at
okay.
first, doing junk, 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 and then he said maybe the choir can sing along with that.
Yeah.
And it was just one note, and so I sort of spread it out to copy this melody, and boy, it worked.
I love that
It's
part,
worked
yeah.
so well.
Say yes, I alive. Say no, I'm alive. Say yes, I'm alive. Say no, I'm alive.
Yeah. I hear that every time when I'm hearing the song. I don't know whether other people pick up on it or not, but
Yeah.
it really, really works under that whole driving thing.
And I'll show you one more. So
Okay.
maybe that was I thought a success on my part, where I had a bit of freedom to sort of create something there, and I was really happy with the way that sounded. And I want to show you one that I really failed at, where Devin had to step in, and so this comes later in that same song. I hope I've got the right one here. Later in the same song, and he wanted something rising and dissonant.
I'm
and
trying to remember the end of it.
You'll know when
Okay,
you hear
okay,
this
yeah.
one. I think we spent a good amount of time
Okay.
on it because it's bloody difficult. I remember from singing in choirs before that almost the more difficult dissonances are, the more tentatively you sing them.
Oh, okay, yeah. Until you really
dissonances
got it
are
in your head. Yeah.
really particular,
Yeah.
and you don't want to mess them up. You don't want to give the
Yeah.
wrong dissonance,
Yeah.
if that's such a thing. And so this is one where I sort of went, I don't know, maybe halfway
Okay.
on how ugly it was.
Oh, this
and
is...
then Devin showed me, no, let's
Not the
redo
C.
this part. Yeah, I think
Is
it's
this
the
C?
part
Okay,
with the C.
yeah.
And boy, did he
Oh,
ever
it's beautiful.
garble it up. And in the end, it sounds so perfect.
Yeah, that dissonance, I know exactly what
Cool.
you're talking about, yeah.
So it comes in a few bars here.
And the earth itself will swallow us whole. Oh, we can't speak for those will suffer.
Yeah, that's a great moment
Yeah.
in the piece. Yeah.
And I
exactly.
remember writing that with him in the room, and it was really fun. He just
Yeah.
said, what if we start with, these altos just going stepwise,
Yeah.
chromatically,
Yeah.
every chord, they go stepwise, and
Yeah.
we start with that against this pedal on top. Boy, did it turn out great.
Yeah, it really did. I've got an email that says to the choir, maybe that C isn't going to work. Be ready to drop it if we need to.
Yeah, sure.
Because we're not sure if it's too dissonant or whatever,
Yeah.
but it really worked. Yeah.
I guess
yeah.
because I haven't seen a lot of choir writing like that before.
Yeah,
but
yeah, cool. My choir is normally about 40 people.
Yeah.
And I think that every choir has a sound to it, and that's what we work on all the time. It's acoustic. It's to do with the space we're in. It's to do with sort of shimmer and tone and vowels and tuning and all of those things that make one choir sound like itself. So we wanted it to sound like Elektra, but I didn't want to bring 40 people into the studio because I thought that was going to be untenable. So I picked 16 as a sound that would replicate, and we were fortunately in Armory Studio, so it kind of had a bit of space of the room.
Yeah.
To replicate enough of the sound of Elektra, and then I knew you could layer it on top if you needed to, which I'm sure you did.
We did.
Yeah. And that allowed us to do as many parts as you had written and all of that kind of stuff. But I have to say that when a classical choir goes in front of microphones of any kind, I get anyway nervous because you take this thing that you work on week in and week out to get the sound acoustically in the room, and suddenly you're trusting it to somebody who puts a microphone in front of this singer or that singer or whatever, and you just give up some of the control of what you've done. But what absolutely amazed me, and this is your writing, well, Devin's vision, your writing, the way that people were recording it, the way it got mixed and everything, it has that shimmer on it that I wasn't sure we were going to be able to get.
Interesting.
And it's just in classical music too, we're looking to really move the listener. It is emotional, even if it's avant-garde classical music. You're trying to make an emotional connection with the audience, and that was happening in so many different ways in all of those pieces. And it had to do, like I said, with the writing and also the way they captured the sound and the way we were balanced in the sound,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I thought I want to bring up one thing that I had never heard a sort of choir director say before, but at the session you were always explaining to singers how to use the space. It may be in terms of dynamics.
Okay.
Some we might say forte or mezzo piano here or whatever.
Yeah.
But you would always say, this time throw your sound against the back wall and feel it come back, or fill this corner of the room and
cool.
Keep it as a small pocket. I thought that was exactly
it's
what
interesting.
that session needed.
Yeah, thank you. To me, dynamics are not just, you don't just dial them up and go, now it's going to go from this to that. You have to think about what's the emotional quality of a mezzo forte or a pianissimo or whatever. And I was so excited at the opening of Genesis. We did those dynamics, and they didn't get sort of mixed out into something that was flatter. It's really there in the sort of three-dimensional thing that we were trying to do, and
cool.
we were allowed to do that, which was such a thrill.
Yeah.
And I will say, I'd never heard the name Devin Townsend. I had no idea. It's just a whole world that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the most creative musicians I've ever worked with, and I'm a huge fan, and I'm just so grateful that we were able to put this project together.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
Yeah.
I think he's singular. Devin and I have spoken a lot, and I think the reason that maybe I got the initial call to do choir stuff is about music theory and a general almost negative feeling around music theory. That
Yeah, he's
maybe been around people who use it as a defense mechanism,
right.
whereas he uses it just as an expressive tool
Yeah.
and doesn't know more than he needs to
Yeah.
to realize his vision, and that he needs some compassionate people around
Yeah.
to sort of help him through that. And I love that the choir was able to do that.
Yeah. And we just felt so respected. I mean, I walked in there. No, there were no egos involved. There was nobody trying to look cool. There was there was nothing in the way psychologically of getting good music down on tape,
Yeah.
And that just made it possible for us to focus and know that we were there doing the best job that we could and that we were the right people for the job.
Yeah.
And that was such a relief. And that again comes back to the clarity of that first conversation with Devin, where he just like, no, I want you sounding like you, because I hear that as part of this album.
Yeah.
How cool is that?